In the occupied Palestinian territory, the devastating impact of the occupation on economic and social rights is closely interlinked with violation of civil and political rights. In Gaza, the Israeli blockade, now in its 12th year, had led to negative economic growth, environmental degradation, over 50% unemployment, even higher for youth, and the reliance of more than 70% of people on humanitarian assistance, primarily food. It could be said that the major product of Gaza's economy is despair. The end of this month will mark 1 year since the start of demonstrations which, as the Council's Commission of Inquiry reported, have been met with deadly disproportionate force by the Israeli security forces, leading to a very high toll of killings and injuries. I was disappointed to see the immediate dismissal of that report by Israel without addressing any of the very serious issues raised. All parties concerned should exercise restraint as the date of 30th of March approaches.
Excellences, distinguished colleagues.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen.
Imposing economic hardship on Palestinians does not make Israelis safer. We regret Israel's decision to cancel the temporary international protective presence in Hebron, which has helped to prevent and mitigate some human rights violations in a frequently challenging context. It will be essential to ensure continued humanitarian access and protection.
Excellences, distinguished colleagues.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen.
In China, rapid development has lifted millions of people out of poverty, and yet in some areas, communities and individuals have been left behind. My office seeks to engage on this issue with the government for full access to carry out an independent assessment of the continuing reports pointing to wide patterns of enforced disappearances and arbitrary detentions, particularly in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. This area is at the center of the Belt and Road Initiative, enabling land corridors to Central Asia, South Asia, and Europe. And I'm convinced that stability and security in this region can be facilitated by policies which demonstrate the authorities' respect of all people's rights. The situation in Venezuela clearly illustrates the way violation of civil and political rights, including failure to uphold fundamental freedoms and the independence of key institutions, can accentuate the decline of economic and social rights. It also shows how those swiftly deteriorating economic and social conditions give rise to even more protest, even greater repression, and further violation of civil and political rights, a spiral of accelerating and strongly negative trends. This situation has been exacerbated by sanctions, and the resulting current political, economic, social, and institutional crisis is alarming. In the United States, the new migrant protection protocols, which restrict access to asylum and other forms of human rights protection and push migrants back across the border to wait for their proceedings without due process of safeguards, are a source of concern. A recent report by the Inspector General for the United States Department of Health and Human Services indicates that thousands more migrant children have been separated from their families than had been previously reported. The office has raised concern with Australia about the imminent transfer of migrants from Manu Island and Nauru to new detention centres.
High Commissioner for that report.